Is it unmuted there, Kevin?
Yes, it is. Hold on. Try it again.
James chapter 4. You
Is it
want me
turned
to...
all the way on?
Hmm?
Is it turned all the way over?
I think so. It looks like it.
Is it lit up?
Yes, sir.
It is unmuted.
All right, well, let me just move up there so that we have a microphone. That one works. James chapter 4, verse 4. Hold on. Let's backtrack a little bit. All right, so James chapter 4 is all about basically taming one's thoughts, right? James chapter 2 is about taming one's actions, getting one's actions under control. James chapter 3 is getting one's words under control, the tongue under control. James chapter 4 is all about the thoughts, right? Your desires, your lust. The word lust is going to be used quite a bit in James chapter 4. So James chapter 4 and verse 4, in theme of lust, James is going to write, adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. James uses a very interesting description here to talk about these Christians. What does he call them? How does he start this verse off? It's the A team, 2 A words. Adulterers and adulteresses. Man, who are they cheating on? Who are they committing adultery against? He doesn't say it, out explicitly, right? So we're going to have to kind of put on our thinking caps and rationalize what he's talking about. Who are they committing adultery against? It's going to be spiritual adultery, all right? Okay, well, what's spiritual adultery? The church is the bride of whom? All right, how do we know that? It's Ephesians 5, right? Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. And also Revelation, I saw the bride of the Lamb coming down, right? So we've got the church is the bride of Christ. Who's the church? We're the church, right? Okay, so then who is our husband? If we're the bride to Christ, who is our husband? Christ is our husband, right? Okay, so in order for us, Christians, and that's who James is writing to here, in order for us to commit adultery, who are we committing adultery against? Christ, our husband. Adulterers and adulteresses. Boy, all of that packed into 3 little words there, adulterers and adulteresses. Right? He's hinting at a much bigger picture. Spiritual adultery, that's what these Christians are committing. Okay, so they're cheating on Christ. How can one cheat on Christ? It's not the same way that a spouse would go and cheat on his spouse, right? Which we don't need to, describe how that takes place. But it is similar. Right? Let's open our Bibles to Hosea chapter 2. And we're going to see this concept of spiritual adultery is not just found here in James chapter 4. Hosea chapter 2. Anybody want to tell us what the book of Hosea is about? Some people will pronounce it Hosea. Do you know Hosea is an interesting name? There are 2 other people in the Bible named Hosea. And it's the same name, but it's just pronounced 2 different ways. They are Joshua, and anyone want to take a guess as to the third? Jesus. That's right. Jesus, Hosea, Joshua. All 3 are the same name, right? And each of their names means Savior, right? Anyway, that's free. You don't have to pay for that one. That's Hosea chapter 2. What's Hosea about? Hosea has married a woman who shares a name with a fella on the Andy Griffith show. Some of you youngins might recognize the Andy Griffith Show. Gomer, right? He's married a lady named Gomer, except for Gomer, she's not as nice as old Gomer Pyle, right? She's she is nice to some people, but not to Hosea, right? What does she do? What is her profession? It's only legal in Las Vegas in the United States. She's a prostitute. Right? Hosea chapter 2, beginning in verse 1. In Hosea 3, God is going to tell Hosea to go and buy her back, and they will get back together, and she'll leave her harlotry. But in Hosea chapter 2, he's going to paint the picture as to what Hosea and Gomer's relationship represents, right? God takes this really bad relationship where one spouse is an actual prostitute, and he is going to bring out a spiritual lesson, right? Hosea chapter 2, beginning in verse 1, God says to Hosea, "Say to your brethren, my people, and to your sisters, mercy is shown. Bring charges against your mother. Bring charges, for she is not my wife, nor am I her husband. Let her put away her harlotries from her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts." All right, who is God talking to when he says your mother? Who's God talking to in general? Verse 1, say to your brethren, my people. Who's that? Who's the people of God in the Old Testament? Israel. Say to your mother, say to the Israelites, say to your leaders that you are committing spiritual adultery. You have harlots among you, right? Now, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but I do want you to hear it, right? The Bible gets kind of explicit at times, and it's going to get a little explicit here. We're not going to dwell on it, but I want you to hear that this is God's word here. Verse 3. You need to warn her of her adultery, of her spiritual adultery. Verse 3, lest I strip her naked and expose her as in the day she was born, and make her like a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. I will not have mercy on her children, for they are the children of harlotry, for their mother has played the harlot. She who conceived them has behaved shamefully, for she said, I will go after my lovers who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my linen, my oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up your way with thorns and wall her in so she cannot find her path. She will chase her lovers, but not overtake them. Yes, she will seek them, but not find them. I will go and return to my first husband, for then it was better for me than it now. Notice verse 8. This is the really important part. We've been talking about adultery, but we're not really talking about adultery. Verse 8. For she did not know that I gave her grain, not her lovers, and that I gave her new wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for who? What's Baal? It's an idol. What's an idol?
Anything that you worship.
Right. It's a false god. All right, so what is spiritual adultery? It's idolatry. It's when you go and you say, Baal, this false god over here, Baal is what gave me grain. Baal is what gave me new wine. Baal is what gave me oil. Baal is what gave me silver and gold. And it could be anything, not just Baal. Baal just so happened to be their mistress, right? But we can have lots of mistresses. Oh, maybe the stock market gave me silver and gold. Maybe my employer gave me silver and gold, right? Spiritual adultery. It's giving credit to someone who is not God. Spiritual adultery. It is a vivid picture. You remember those words that Hosea is told to say there? Adultery, harlotry, others that we're not going to say again. Right? This is serious stuff. All right, so James says in James 4 and verse 4, adulterers and adulteresses. This is serious stuff. Whenever we are committing spiritual adultery, whenever we are going after false gods, this is very serious stuff. Now notice in James 4 and verse 4, so we're leaving Hosea now. Go back to James 4 and verse 4. Notice how these Christians were committing spiritual adultery. James 4 and verse 4, adulterers and adulteresses. Do you not know that? What's the word there? Friendship. With who? With the world is enmity with God. All right. He starts this verse very boldly. Adulterers and adulteresses. All right. If somebody came up to you and called you an adulterer, are you going to take them seriously? Well, you better. Right. There's very few insults as hurtful as being accused of adultery. And here James is coming up and calling these Christians adulterers and adulteresses. And how are they committing spiritual adultery? Are they going to bail? No. All they are doing is being friends with the world. This is very serious. Okay, let's look at the word friendship. Anybody want to, I'll ask, but it's okay if no one does. Anybody want to take a guess as to what the word there for friendship is in the Greek? It's one that we're somewhat familiar with. Phileo is the word. Philadelphia uses that word phileo. What's the word phileo mean? It's one of the four loves that C.S. Lewis writes about. One of the four words used in Greek to describe love. Phileo is friendly love. It's brotherly love, right? Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Phileo autophos, right? Autophos, Delphia. It's brother. And phileo, love, right? City of brotherly love, right? So that's what this word is phileo. It's friendly love. It's brotherly love. It's camaraderie. That's enmity with God. If we're friends with the world, let's kind of paint a picture as to what this kind of love is. Let's open our Bibles to John chapter 11. John chapter 11, beginning of verse 34 here. John 11 and verse 34. Here the Bible reads, "And he, Jesus, said, 'Where have you laid him?'" Anybody know who the him is there? Lazarus. Oh, well, just given the name, we kind of know what's going to happen, huh? What happens to Lazarus? What's going on with Lazarus right now? Where is he at? Why is he in the ground? He's dead, all right? All right. So Jesus comes, and by the way, he waited a few days, all right? Jesus comes, and he asks, "Where is he? Or where did you lay Lazarus?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he phileoed him." That's friendship. When we are crying over somebody that we once knew, a friend who died, that's friendship. That's love. Friendship with the world is enmity with God.
Is that same love as in 1 John 2:15?
Love not the world. Let's just look.
1 John 2:15?
Yeah.
Because it says if you love the world, then the love of the Father is not in you.
Right.
That's an agape or
Agape.
agape.
Yeah.
But the phileo,
Mm-hmm.
what you said here, and the one, where was the first one?
James 4:4.
No, that one is
Yeah, that one's phileo. Yeah.
well, let me see, hang on a minute. That one says phileo.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the same thing?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like with los and las in Spanish. It's masculine and feminine. Yeah. 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 Yeah, phileo. Greek is complicated, but they what?
I don't know either one.
Yeah. Well, Greek will a lot of times, change the ends of words, right? So, yeah, that's enough about that. Yeah.
You can't share your love
Right.
between the world and God.
That's right.
And it was, who was it, Demas?
Mm-hmm.
Was he the one that forsook?
Yeah, Paul writing to Timothy. Mm-hmm.
He forsook him.
Right. Yeah, so this is a good point to draw home, right? Like, we can't have either love, phileo or agape, right? Phileo is this friendly love, right? It's something that you would, like, when you miss it, you'll cry over it. That's how John uses it in John 11. But you also can't have agape love for the world. What's our common definition for agape? Self-sacrificial love. Right, and the reason we define it as that is because in John, I couldn't give you the chapter and verse off the top of my head, but in John, Jesus says, greater love has no man than this, than for a man to lay down his life for a friend, right? Love, agape, greater agape has no man than this, to lay down his life for a friend, to sacrifice himself for a friend. It's self-sacrificial love. That's agape love, right? So whenever we are sacrificing ourselves, whenever we are living for the world, whenever we are listening to the world, doing what the world wants us to do, that's agape. John says in 1 John 2:15, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world, right? So we can't love the world with agape, and we also can't love the world with phileo, James 4 and verse 4. Why? Because friendship with the world is enmity with God. What's the word enmity mean? Being hostile towards. I like that. Did you look that up? Yeah, well, I'm going to write it in my notes. Rita says being hostile. Yeah, it's good. I like it. Yeah, that's the opposite of friendship, right? Hostility, right? Yeah. Is that what it says in the Thayer or Strong's?
Strong's,
Yeah.
Well, it says hostility by implication, reason for opposition, enmity, hatred.
Rita, you must have looked it up, at some point. Yeah, I'm still writing in, gonna write. Rita said. Hostility. Okay, so it's one or the other, isn't it? And that makes perfect sense. Adulterers and adulteresses, well, guess what? If you go and you cheat on your spouse, do you love your spouse? No, it's hostility towards your spouse. Perfect word, perfect contrast in this verse. Friendship with the world, love of the world. What is it? It is hatred towards God. You can't have one and the other. It's one or the other. You're going to have to choose, as Joshua said. Joshua, Hosea, same name, right? Joshua 24:15, what does he say? Choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your fathers beyond the flood or the gods of the Amorites. As for me and my house, we will serve who? We'll serve the Lord. Right? You're going to have to choose whether or not you're going to serve God or you're going to serve something else, the world. You're going to have to decide whom you're going to love. Right? Love is a decision. Right? It's agape love is a decision. Phileo love is something that you can't help. And as far as phileo goes, something that you can't help, something that you feel naturally, right? Like we use the phrase, I like that person, but I want to go camping with him. Okay, well, what does that phrase suggest about that person? That you are lacking what towards that person? Friendship love. right? If you don't want to go camping with someone, or go out to the ball game with somebody, you're lacking this friendship love with them, right? You don't want to be friends with them. Friendship love is something that you develop naturally. It's not necessarily a decision. And if you naturally love the Lord, if you naturally love the world, what is that? James 4:4. Adultery. Man, strong words from James here. Let's see what the end of the verse says here. James 4, verse 4. Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Whosoever is crying after the world because they're not accepted by the world, they want to be accepted by the world, they miss the world when they are not around the world. Whoever wants to be a friend of the world, they're an enemy of God. Right? We use a phrase, and it's a really good phrase. We are in the world, not of the world. What does that phrase suggest? What does it mean to be in the world? Yeah, we live in the world, right? And what does it mean to be of the world? Yeah, you're not like the world, right? You are not acting like the world. You're not living like the world, right? We're in the world. Every day we pass people, who are living worldly lives, carnal lives, lives that are the opposite of how God would like them to live. But that's not how we're living. We might be interacting with them, but that doesn't mean that's how we're living. So I'm not suggesting that we have to be unfriendly towards the world. In fact, in Romans chapter 12, Paul will say, as much as is in you, live peaceably with all men, right? So we need to be living peaceably with all men. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, Paul will say that we need to pray for the world, right? So I'm not suggesting that we need to, give them the cold shoulder, that we need to despise them, that we need to be the opposite of friendly towards them. What I am suggesting, what the Bible is saying, is that we don't need to love the world. We don't need to cry after the world. We don't need to be so emotionally attached to the world that it takes precedence over our attachment to Christ. All right? We're in it. That doesn't mean we have to love it. Any thoughts or comments on James 4 and verse 4?
Well, John 3:16.
Mm-hmm.
For God so loved the world.
Mm-hmm.
But what was that talking about there? When God so loved the world, it was the people.
The people in it. That's right.
It wasn't the worldliness.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point out of that verse, right? He's not loving the worldliness, which, by worldliness we mean sinfulness, right? But he loves the people of it, and so should we, right? That doesn't mean that we love the sin of it, but we do love the people, right? That's important. That's a really good point to draw out. Any other thoughts or questions or comments? James 4 and verse 5. Or do you think that the scripture says in vain, the Spirit who dwells in us yearns jealously? Guyon Woods wrote, there is perhaps no more difficult passage in the epistle. There are problems involving A, the text, B, the translation, C, the punctuation, D, the meaning, and, so that's a lot of different questions that we have on James 4 and verse 5. Guyon Woods does not even address the first three problems of the text, the translation, the punctuation. Instead, he jumps straight to the fourth problem, which is the meaning of the text. And he says, those interested in a detailed discussion of the more critical aspects of the passage will need to consult a variety of sources. But suffice it to say, this is me summarizing, suffice it to say, the Spirit that is in us, that is, our inner being, it yearns to envy, it yearns to lust, it yearns to desire these things, right? Your inner man, as Paul would put it in Romans, is constantly desiring to be like the world, right? There's a lot of conversation of, are we forced to sin? Are we like prone to sin? Do we have to sin, right? We're not going to get into that, from this verse, but suffice it to say, it certainly yearns to sin. We all yearn to sin, right? Hebrews 10 verse 24, Moses desire to suffer the affliction of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, right? Sin is a pleasurable thing, and our flesh within us, our spirit within us desires it, right? And so we have to constantly, as we're controlling our thoughts, James 4, we are going to have to constantly keep ourselves have self-discipline so that we do not sin, so that we do not give into our lustful, unlawful desires. That's all we're going to say on James 4 and verse 5, unless anyone has any other thoughts or questions from it.
That even goes back from close to the beginning, doesn't it? Like Genesis 6, 4, 5, I can't remember.
Right.
Somewhere, where due to the faults of man was
It was wicked only, continuously. Romans, that's Genesis 6. Lots of things that we can extract. This verse can go in a lot of different directions, and that's certainly one of them. That's our minds just are pointed towards it a lot, and that does not condone it in any way, right? That's what the Gnostics wanted to do. Anybody know who the Gnostics were? They were a religious group that came up right after Christianity started 2,000 years ago. And 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and John, all four of those books are really against Gnosticism, especially 1 John and John. And anyway, one of the things that the Gnostics taught was that our flesh is inherently evil and that we can't help it. And so some Gnostics went so as far as to say that what we need to do is we need to indulge our flesh so that we can burn that lust out of us. That doctrine is called asceticism. It's the idea of, eat, drink, have sex with whoever you want, until you get all these lusts out of you. It's not what the Bible teaches at all, right? Control these urges, control these sinful desires. That's what the Bible expects of us. Thoughts and questions still on James 4:5? All right, James 4 and verse 6. But he gives more grace. Therefore, he says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. This is where we're going to end tonight. We still got 15 minutes left. But no, we got 5 minutes left. Oh, man. Well, let's back up to James 4 and verse 5, and let's just end on James 4 and verse 5. Any other thoughts or questions, since we only have 5 minutes left and not 15 minutes left?
Paul, he talks about he buffets his body daily.
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 9:27. Yeah. Right, yeah, but I buffet my body and keep it under subjection, lest by any means when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway, right? I buffet my body, right? I beat myself. The word buffet means I hit myself on the cheek until it's black and blue. Buffet my body, keep it under subjection, right? I keep my thumb over my lust, lest when I preach to others, when I'm going and talking to people about Christ and saying, hey, you shouldn't sin, but I'm out here sinning, then I'm disqualified, then I'm a castaway, right? We need to control ourselves, lest that whenever we are telling people what's wrong in their lives, they pick out the beam in our eyes, right? What's that a reference to, right? The speck in your eyes and the beam in your eyes? Righteous and unrighteous judgment, right? We need to be judging righteous judgment, John 7:24. We need to be judging in a way that doesn't make us hypocritical. And that does not mean that the world has to live up to our standards. What that means is that we need to live up to whose standards? God's standards. And then tell the world that they need to live up to whose standards? God's standards, right? So, we, not making any allowances, not of ourselves, not of others. Another verse, Romans 6 and verse 18. Let not sin reign in your mortal bodies, that you obey it in the lust thereof. Right? Sin so desperately wants to reign in your body. What does it mean to reign? R-E-I-N, not R-A-I-N. To rule, reside, to control. Right? Let not sin reign in your body. Who has control over sin in your body? It's me. It's not me. It's you, right? Over your body, it's you, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Keith pointed to himself, and I was like, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, it's me." No, that's not right. Keith has control over your body. You don't get to decide. We need to control our bodies. How does Jesus say to control our bodies? He uses a hyperbole, an exaggeration. If your right hand offends you, if your right eye offends you, right? Is he seriously suggesting that? I don't think so. You know, that whole sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, is filled with some hyperboles here and there. But it does suggest that we need to take it seriously. Adulterers and adulteresses, right? This is not a laughing matter. This is not a something that we need to mess with, right? If your spouse comes up to you or anybody comes up to you and says, "I saw you cheating," that's something that you need to take seriously. When God, who is going to determine whether or not you are saved or not, when God comes up to you and says you are committing spiritual adultery, how much more ought we to consider that? A whole lot more. All right, we need to take that a whole lot more seriously than physical adultery. All right, other thoughts and questions now that we're a minute over according to my fast watch. We're still got a minute according to my slow watch, though. So somewhere in the middle is where we're at. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 If yeah, you're right. 1 Corinthians 7:10. If you cannot contain, it is better to marry if you cannot contain and burn in your lusts. Right. It's better to marry than to burn is the exact phrase there. Yeah. To burn in your lust is the meaning there. Right. Yeah. It's better to if you can't control yourself, it's better to surrender control over to someone. And spiritually speaking, in fact, this is a great thought to launch us into the rest of James 4. Spiritually speaking, we cannot control ourselves. Right? Romans, we can't control ourselves fully. And so Romans 7, James 4, they're going to both say, give control over to God. And anyway, we'll pick up with that next week, Lord willing. Is it next week? Is next week the last Wednesday of the month, or is it the week after? Oh, okay.